Hi everyone, thanks for coming to my recording. My name is Nigel Bosch and I'll be speaking about our paper Students' Verbalized Metacognition during Computerized Learning. This paper describes a study using Betty's Brain, which is a learning by teaching environment in which students learn about natural language topics by explaining them graphically to a virtual agent called Betty. So students lay out the various concepts in their natural language or natural science topics, including nouns, concepts, and the causes that link these things together. So for example, the student might link together deforestation to vegetation by noting that deforestation reduces vegetation. Vegetation absorbs carbon dioxide in turn. So we can make a causal connection there and perhaps conclude that deforestation reduces vegetation, which absorbs carbon dioxide, so maybe deforestation would increase carbon dioxide. And that's exactly what the Betty virtual agent does. Betty uses these causal links to answer quiz questions that the student administers to the virtual agent. So the causal map forms Betty's brain, what Betty uses to answer the questions, and the students can then see what questions Betty got correct or incorrect in the quiz, as well as what links in the causal map led to that particular answer. And the student can also see cases where Betty could not answer a question because the topics were not linked together appropriately in the causal map at all. So the students can then use this information to update their causal map and hopefully learn a bit about these natural science topics in the process. So in this study, we had some middle school students who used Betty's Brain as part of their classroom activities. And while they were using Betty's Brain, we applied real-time affect and behavior detectors, especially focused on confusion detection, to provide prompts to interviewers who then interviewed some of these students. And during these interviews, students described their software usage, their problem-solving strategies, problems they encountered, and other topics. It's fairly open-ended, but designed to help students resolve issues they were encountering and to understand those issues. So we then, after the fact, measured metacognition from these interview transcripts. So we did so by applying some natural language processing methods that recognize first-person metacognitive statements where the students are evaluating their knowledge. For example, a student might say, "I really didn't know what I was doing," where they talk about what they know or what they did not know and recognize their own knowledge state. You can read the paper if you're curious about the details of exactly how we did this. For a little bit more complicated example, a real example from the student, where a student says, "I wouldn't say it surprised me, I already knew." That's a metacognitive statement from the student. "It was bad, but it was a little bit like a dawning realization of how bad it is." Then the interviewer might jump in and probe a little bit more deeply, ask some follow-up questions, and the student can respond, in this case with more metacognitive statements. But this is an especially metacognitively verbal student, and some of them really do not verbalize whatever metacognition they may or may not be experiencing in the moment. So we then explored how students' verbalization of metacognition during this learning experience with the Betty's Brain software related to various aspects of the other aspects of the learning experience that we expected would be related. So somewhat surprisingly, verbalized metacognition was not directly related to learning. However, the interviews themselves were. So there's a little bit of a complicated relationship there. We get into it a bit more in the paper if you're curious. However, we also found that unresolved confusion tended to relate negatively to verbalized metacognition, which is indicative of how the students were able or not able to resolve their confusing experiences. We also found that verbalized metacognition was related to some metacognitively informed software use, for example, updating the causal map based on quiz results they had just seen. So thanks very much for watching and/or listening. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.